Hello, everybody. This is Joey from the Chart Guys, and I'm super lucky to be joined here by two of the absolute best traders I know, TCG members Devon up here on the left and Trend up on the top right. They are super successful traders from the crypto space, absolutely crushed the 2021 bull run and changed their lives, and they are taking time out of their day to come here and just hash through all of the stuff, go into primarily the psychology of all of it, because everybody who's been in the game for a while now, that learning the curriculum of the TA takes a bit, but it's not rocket science, and then it's all onto psychology. And these two guys are absolute masters of it. So, Devin?
Yeah, happy to be here. Really excited to talk about both of our journey because Trend and I both kind of we grew together through like our relationship and then other people talking in the crypto like alt room. It was a really cool experience to be like bouncing off ideas, and I know that we had a similar experience. So yeah, stoked to talk about that with you guys.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm excited, super excited to be here, joined with two legends in the game. Uh, yeah, and Devin, you forgot the part where we're pretty much goofing around the whole time. So
That's true.
you know what I mean? That's part of it. That's the great thing about it. It's join a group like this, you got folks that you could kind of talk to and goof around with.
I do think that is really a valuable thing with how kind of inherently stressful a game where, your money's going up and down and there's all this uncertainty and risk, to have folks that you can lighten up with and kind of take the edge off and not be so just zoned in and feeling like, the world's ending or like you're god of the land or something. It helps
Right.
keep things chill. So let's kind of start at the beginning. We'll Devin, if you don't mind kicking us off, when did you start trading? When did you join the Chart Guys? What was the progression of your journey like? How long did it take for you to get your sea legs, if you will? And then
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead and take the floor.
Sure, yeah. It honestly, like the past, let's see, 6, 7 years, it's a blur because of how many cycles we've already gone through in crypto now. But I started in 2017. So I think crypto was like 3 or 4 grand, and I was working at a full-time like graphic design job, and I was loving it, but also I wanted to get in on this action. Like somebody told me about Bitcoin and it sounded really cool. So I like leveraged up all my credit cards and like maxed them out and bought one Bitcoin, like with 4,000 bucks. And I was super stoked about it because like within a few days it doubled, and then it started going up into December and hit, I think its all-time high was what, like 19.5 or something like that. And soon after, yeah, I mean, you know the story, like coming back down all the way to 6,000. And I was telling my dad at the top, like, man, this is gonna change my life. Like, I ain't selling. And he's a CPA. He's like, man, you got to take your profits. And I didn't do any of that. So to see like some life-changing money at 20 years old was hard to see that evaporate. And when it pulled back, I knew, like, man, I can't let that happen again. I want to learn how to uh, take my profits and like get better at this. So yeah, I explored YouTube for like some different trading gurus, and eventually stumbled upon the Chart Guys and started watching Dan, and knew that it was like time to invest into the membership. So that was like the best investment that I ever made, was like one, watching the Chart Guys. I think it's the crypto like course that was on
Yeah.
the website,
Mm-hmm.
and then just getting involved in the community. Like it took a few years to get profitable, and it took like the right market conditions, which we found in 2021, right? So yeah, it was a really cool ride for sure.
Yeah, and what you said about being in there in 2017 and trading that first hype cycle and then giving it all back and then crushing the next one. That seems to be a pretty common theme with what we see here in the Chart Guys and just around Twitter and whatnot, and really anywhere in life. You need to experience something to build up the skills in it and build up the familiarity, and then to be comfortable enough with something as uncertain as trading to then be like, all right, I'm pushing the stack in for this trade and really crushing a hype cycle like you guys did. Absolutely makes sense there. So, Trent, how about you? When'd you, the same questions?
Yeah, I was listening to Devin and I was just thinking it sounds a lot like my own journey, but a little different. So I didn't start trading until 2018, and this was after that all-time high, 2017 all-time high of close to 20K. And I had acquired some Bitcoin through online poker, and I saw that climb up to those heights, and within a few months just dumped down to 6K. And that was when I decided, I can't let this happen. And so I got online, and one of the first videos that I saw from the Chart Guys was Charting Man Dan talking about the similarities between poker and trading, because he also played poker before. And so I said, this is where I need to be. And so I joined Chart Guys from the very start. And I've pretty much tried to become a carbon copy of Dan, minus the hair, but I have the robes. I have the robes. I got a few robes. But yeah, and so I went all out of poker and went all into trading without knowing a lick of it. And it was, I've accumulated bumps and bruises along the ways and shed a few tears because it's not an easy road for sure. And I didn't know what I was getting into, but at the time, I remember clearly that it was all that I wanted to do, right? So it's something about the game kind of intrigued me. I wouldn't call it love at first sight, but I had a lot of passion for it. And I went through many years of not making any money. So, and yeah, just like Devin, it was pretty much the 2021, that alt season, as we call it. That's when I got my break.
That's a great start, man. It's, when you bring up the passion that you had for it, something I've definitely seen with both of you and with myself as well, and everyone else who starts rolling in the Chart Guys, it really seems like you've got to be obsessed with it to get through this game, because there's no real positive reinforcement along the way. It's just like kicks in the gut, and then you get a low kick in the nuts, and then another kick in the gut, and you gotta just keep going. And I don't know what kept you guys going through that along the way.
You guys, yeah, having the ability that, Trent mentioned this, but to be able to just mess around with each other and keep things pretty light, that was a game changer, because as we know, trading is quite isolating. I couldn't imagine doing this as a full-time job alone without a group and people that I've met in real life also to collaborate, and when I'm down big, to be able to joke it off. That's something that you can kind of only do when you view trading as a game, like Trent talked about. We're just trying to win, we want to make money, but we love this. It's a passion. So when we win or we lose, we can still joke around about it, because we know that the end game is just the passion of it.
How about you, Trent? Similar?
Yeah, for sure. I view trading much like a craft. It's not unlike playing an instrument. It's a craft, and I mean, it would be a lie to say that I'm not motivated to grow the account because money is part of it, but to focus on the money and not on the game, on the craft, on perfecting your craft, is a way to blow up your account. Really. So I think you need to have that passion. You need to approach it in terms of doing work and in perfecting your craft.
How about when we all start trading and you make some money, it's easy to associate that with real life stuff of like, oh, that's a new computer or something. Or if you lose some money, oh, that's a health insurance payment. Do you guys remember your shift from it feeling like money to it really feeling like a game and kind of becoming desensitized to it? Like, when did that happen for you? What led to that happening? And do you still find yourself falling back into attaching real life monetary values to these cyberspace numbers?
Yeah, dude. You want to go first on that?
Yeah, sure. So early on, I was trading alts with this kind of grand scheme of making more Bitcoin, and it didn't work out. I actually lost a good chunk of my Bitcoin holdings from that. And this was during crypto winter, where alts were pulling back a lot harder. And so I went back into the lab and traded small accounts. By the time I was in year 3, I was slightly profitable. And that's when I started trading with leverage, just kind of experimenting. It was, to me, a teaching tool to tighten up my game and to find the gaps and holes in my game. So I started that leverage account with $500, blew it up a few times, 2 times. And on the 3rd time, I remember being able to grow that account. And I've also done this before where I grew the account and every time I blew it up. But I remember clearly it was algo, altcoin, crypto altcoin called algo, and I did it again. I almost blew up the account again, but and I remember it clearly because it was that kick in the gut that you're talking about, Joey. And I was in a dark place. I was trading in my greenhouse at the moment, and I decided not to even go into my house. I didn't join my family for dinner. I ended up sleeping in the greenhouse that night, and didn't turn on the heat. I had a propane heater in there, and I just kind of felt like a loser, really, because I knew that the signs were there. It was a rising wedge, right? EMAs were far away, but I got just too aggressive trying to grow the account even more, and then it completely missed the 5-minute oversold, almost got to hourly oversold, and I panicked so one mistake after another, and it was like I knew what I should have done, but I didn't do it, and that was the punch in the gut for me. Even though it was a small account. And so to your question, Joey, is for me, practicing with a smaller account and going through all of these, or experiencing all of these ups and downs, and figuring out your game in the process, I think helped in kind of desensitizing myself from, then putting in more capital or having larger positions, because it really becomes a game where I'm just trying to grow the account, right, from $500. And so I think that practice and getting all of those reps in certainly helped. And yeah, that's how I feel about it. And yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what Devin has to say.
Yeah, that's really good, and I resonate with a lot of it. I think I know our journey was along the same path, but we were kind of like edging and flowing in different ways. And for me, like that big step from that hurdle of like trading a small account and also blowing up multiple accounts, like in crypto, like trading with leverage and whatnot. Actually in 2020, I straight up like quit trading. for multiple months. I can't remember how long, but I like left the chart guys for a bit, and I was like, man, it's been like 2 or 3 years of putting up thousands of hours into work, and I don't have anything to show for it. And it was super discouraging. And I kind of hung it up in the closet, like, so to speak. And it wasn't until I met my wife now at this point, I met her in 2020. She found out that was like a big part of my life, and she encouraged me to get back into it. And I think it was coming back from a break that kind of set me up for success, in that I was like, I'm gonna go for it, and it's either gonna work out or I'm done forever. Like, so I didn't have any fear coming into it, and it was a incredible timing coming out of 2020 into 2021. Like, great opportunity, and my mind was refreshed, and I had all the information that I needed, and then I had the support of like our group. So all these things just added up to be like a perfect storm, in the sense of it all worked out, you know. And I ended up, when we saw a lot of crypto volatility, I ended up moving into my parents' house out of the small house I was renting with a roommate. And I just didn't want any overhead. Like, I wanted to put all my money into crypto and trade it. And uh, I would set milestones. Like, I'd be like, all right, next week I want to hit whatever amount, like the 6-figure level, and then I would hit it like within like a couple days, and then I would just keep raising the milestones. But the most helpful thing to get over that hurdle about not getting caught up with, like, oh, I made this amount of money, I gotta stop now. I wouldn't celebrate when I hit milestones. I'm like, this
Mhm.
isn't worth celebrating. Like, what is this? It's a game, you know, and I got to keep on winning and winning and winning. So anyways, that is what helped, you know, to grow in a really big way.
Yeah, I remember so vividly after you first really hit it big, and I was like, all right, Devin, you can pretty much be set now. Like, are you going to dial back the aggression? And just like you said, you were not satisfied. You were not celebrating it. You were about the process and about the game. And you said, I don't think so. And I think you went like 8x more from that point or something like that. And in hindsight,
Yeah.
I was just like, thank God he didn't listen to me. Good heavens. So funny in hindsight. And just to think that you took a break from trading and like to potentially be done. And I've noticed that in other places in life, that sometimes taking a step back, resetting, getting your head out from underwater, it really brings perspective, and you can kind of shed these like bad habits that end up just kind of feeling natural because it's like a habitual action that we're taking. And then when we take a step back, you kind of shed the bad habits, you hold on to what you know you ought to do, and can kind of get a fresh slate with it. So it is super interesting that after taking a big break, you kind of just came back and hit the ground running. That's sweet.
Yeah.
So let's see what else we got. Let's get into some juice. Tell us a good story, Devin. Let's start with the loss. Talk about some notable losses, biggest losses of your career, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love talking about losses. Um, okay. So the first one that comes to mind would, there's a few for sure. There was a part of my French, a shitcoin named Hum. It was HMUSD.
Mm.
Do you remember that trend?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, I think it's like people.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Humans,
it
or something like that. Yeah.
something dumb. Anyways, it was on the crypto exchange that we were on, and it was up massively. And like, I come later to realize that any coin that hadn't built up support like over a short period of time, like, just don't trade it. But anyways, it started pulling back, and I actually had a short on it, and I covered the short pretty early, and I was like, I'm gonna flip long. Like, I'm gonna make money both ways. and I flipped long and like started scaling in pretty big. And it just kept going down. Like, I think, I can't recall the exact percentage, but I think it went down like 70 or 80% that night. And I didn't have my whole account in it, but it was a sizable position that it was almost just about like a 7-figure loss. And yeah, that was a memorable one for sure.
Is that the one that you made the Herald meme for? Was that Hum? I think.
I think it was either Hum or Luna.
Yeah,
You have,
I've
do you
got
have
that
that?
here. We'll pull it on the screen. You guys won't be able to see it, but this is, Devon talking about being light-hearted about the losses and just trying to, not ignoring it and not learning from it, but not just letting it destroy him or
Well,
something.
yeah.
I seriously admire how open he'd been about his journey through this whole thing. And everybody in the chat room knew he was crushing it. And then when he first got bogged off the top, made a post in community, said that he got wrecked, and then made this Harold hide the pain meme with it. And I just think that is so legendary. Thinking about how I've felt in the past about losing a few $100, knowing that Devon can take this loss and make a meme about it, say he's going to take a break, and he was back the next day, and like it
I
just
did
kept
take a
going.
break.
You did take a
Yeah.
break. You went to
Yeah, I
bed and then you
slept.
woke up, and then
Yeah.
yeah, so epic. And then yeah, obviously Luna was
Yeah.
not a fun trade.
Yeah, that I call that the honeymoon trade. I I shouldn't have been trading. Like, I got married and we were in the Maldives off the Indian coast, and like we were looking out in like a panoramic like infinity pool like on these bungalows, and I've got Wi-Fi to my laptop. I wish we had no Wi-Fi. Like, I would I would have more money now. But we yeah, we were just enjoying ourselves, and I saw like the crypto market pulling back heavy, and I didn't have any positions, like I didn't have any reason to be trading. Um, but I saw Luna down like minus 70%. I'm like, now's the time to buy. And it was not the time to buy. It was
No.
continuously like the time to sell. Because there were like some real fundamental issues going on, which is something that I know like Joey and I, we've talked about, is we're not fundamentalists, but at the same time, we are finding that it's important to incorporate important fundamental notes into how aggressive we are with different tickers. And this was one of the times where I was riding a high of, I just got married, like we had a great year. And yeah, Luna was a pretty sizable loss for sure, and kind of a shifting point in pulling back my aggressiveness and just being happy. Like, I'm married. We're just so excited to be where we are right now.
Yeah, that's it seems like it's always one of the tougher things to do is realize like when the good times are over, because even after Bitcoin topped, there were still alts going through pretty much until Luna. Ape had a big run up to 25 in like April and whatnot, and CRV was pumping, and then like all of those topped, and then Luna went to zero, and that was like the end of the end of the bull market.
Yeah, good times.
But yeah, we and this is kind of another one of the cool things about the community with really none of us here being like fundamental folks. Like, there's a bunch of people in the chart guys who are fundamental folks, and Devon and I have a rule now that when Steve ME is waving the red flag, we don't go against it, because a couple times, just because like we buy fear as like oversold bounce specialists. Like, we like fear. So when FUD comes around, it's easy to just be like, oh, that's FUD. But Steve is a guy in the chat room who's just super on top of all of the fundamentals super sharp, and while he's a Bitcoin maxi, he's still like measured with his views on everything. So that's one of our new trading rules. So Trent, how about you? What kind of notable?
Yeah, so I'm going through my mind, and I don't really remember those big losses, although I've had big losses in terms of the monetary value of it. I've had several multiple year losers, so
Yeah.
but I remember what I kind of remember. It's kind of a blur at this time, but I was trying to hit a 7-figure trade, and this was kind of when we were near the top of the alt rally on Ethereum, and it ended up being a multiple year loser. It's just a day trade, and that was kind of one of my goals, was just to hit a 7-figure day trade, and I think that's what made that trade turn out badly. So for me, I really don't remember these big wins and losses as much as I do, these moments where I figured something out, or for instance, that algo trade that where I almost blew up my account for the last time. Like, I made a change after that, and so I remember that very vividly because that was kind of a lesson for me, and it was a deep punch in the gut. Now I remember it fondly, but the other ones, I mean, it was, in terms of monetary value, it was big, but it was kind of like within kind of the manageable risk or acceptable risk that I had at that moment.
For sure.
So when you guys take a loss that's like, our whole lives we're kind of calibrated to what a dollar is, and if you get a job making $100,000 a year, that's like pretty good, and this and that, and to lose multiples of that on one trade, how did you guys handle it? Was it gut wrenching? Was it tough to sleep? Are you able to write it off as part of the game, see it as a high or low on the equity curve, or support from loved ones? Like, what's your tactics to like console the human side? Because obviously you got to trade like a robot to get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to make $1 million in a day. Like, that's so insane anywhere else in life, and against everything that we like. The skills that suit us elsewhere in life don't suit us in trading. So how do you console the human side of yourself when something like that happens, or do you need to?
That's interesting. Trent and I both had built up a decent amount of equity from our like starting points. We started from small accounts. Like, Trent started from was it like a $500 account, I think? Like, was it?
Yeah.
So crazy.
$500 leverage account that was supposed to be kind of a teaching tool for me, but it ended up becoming the largest account that I had. So that's how it played out.
Yeah, like, I didn't start out with an account that small, but I think it was like a 15K account. And so the psyche behind that, like, we only invested that amount, like, we had invested a ton of time prior to that. But coming up to like build that account up, and you're up thousands and thousands of percents, like, we're continuing to take those risks to get us where we were at that point. And like, when it finally stops working, like, it sucks, but you're kind of riding this wave, and like, these are big losses, but they're still like it's not like pulling back anything that's so significant that it's going to change our lifestyle at that point. So yeah, how do you feel about that trend? Did you feel similar?
Yeah, I think that's the key for me, is going into the lab, and I'm doing this right now with the broader markets, futures and commodities. Is I'm playing a small account, like a tiny account, just to get in those reps, just to figure out you know, all the things I need to figure out. There's going to be several differences, and I'm not going to put more capital in if I can't prove to myself that I can consistently grow this account. And I think that repetitive trading, repetitive action kind of prepares you for sizing up, because, you know, if you kind of figure out that, you know, you need to figure out the game. You know, it's a craft. So if you figure out yourself and your place in the game and how you trade those setups, then the money really shouldn't matter, right? The money is just a number. And so, and you know, on the run up, just looking back, it was crazy. It was crazy, but at the same time, it almost felt natural to me, right? So just risking all that capital felt natural, because I went through, you know, 3 years trading small accounts and trying to grow those accounts exponentially, and blowing it up, you know, several times. But that practice, I think, kind of, you know, prepared me for those moments.
For sure.
Yeah, it really stands out how like meticulously process oriented you are, Trend, just where it like truly is all about the game, and then the results speak for themselves over time. I think that is definitely, you know, clearly a great way to go about it. And I think that's, like both of you have kind of iterated, it's necessary in this game. You've got to love it. You've got to be self-critical while still treating yourself with grace, and just not tearing yourself down, but always making sure you're moving forward. And yeah, it's been inspiring to see you guys do that. I definitely look up to both of you massively. You know, I've got my trading Mount Rushmore, and you two are on there. Two of my all-time rock stars.
We look up to you, man.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah,
dude.
for sure. Yeah.
Thanks, dudes. Let's how about biggest win? Devin, you want to talk about the SHIB Doge rotation trade?
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that was a fun night for sure. So SHIB was running up crazy into its all-time high, and it hadn't hit that all-time high yet. But I recall like feeling the FOMO and the mania of SHIB. And I went to the gym that day, and I like was just doing a workout, minding my own business, and heard like through several corners of the gym, like people talking about making all this money on SHIB, and they're like, I don't know anything about this, but I'm making money, and like I'm not going to sell yet. And it was fascinating because what I saw on the charts were confirmed with what I saw in person. And this is a time when I like would just be kind of okay like scaling into stuff. And I wouldn't start with like a full account position by any means, but like I did start a short starter on SHIB. And from my starting position, I think it rallied another like 60% or something like that. But I was kind of flipping like closing half on the higher lows and then continuing to build a position. And then I was coming into the end of the night with over a 7-figure position short and SHIB. And I was like, man, I keep looking at the chart and it's not helping me. So I went to my buddy's house and we would do like hot tub nights and smoke a cigar. And I would just set my phone like on the inside of the house and wouldn't pay attention to it. And we're talking about how SHIB's gonna dump. And lo and behold, like I leave his house and get back to the house and back to my house, and SHIB is pulling back pretty hard. And I have levels marked out. Like I've got like the 4-hour 12 EMA, the 12-hour 12 EMA, like where's 15-minute oversold, like all those levels that are important in that volatility. So I start covering my short. But the thing about SHIB at the time was that because of like all the decimals, it's like 0.0000 blah blah blah. It was very difficult to like open and close positions on the exchange that we were on, because it would only let you buy and sell in like 3K notational value like positions. So I would be like hammering my keys, like buy to close the short. And it probably took like 500 clicks to get out of that short. And then I just started clicking buy. So I started buying into the dip and sold the bounce, and kind of called it at that for the ship trade. And that was about like probably coming up close to a 7-figure win on the ship short. But to kind of close out the night, we were looking at Doge, and it was clear that there might be some rotation coming into Doge, like out of those profits that had been made from SHIB. And Doge was setting up, I think it was a equilibrium like towards the lows, or maybe like inverted to head and shoulders. And I took out a pretty big risky position and just kind of waited, and it ended up rallying like 50%, and I closed that out. And that was a 7-figure night. So like within one day, which was wild. It's crazy.
That is so crazy. What do you like go at the time, your girlfriend, do you say, hey, it was a decent day at the office, or do you say like, you're not going to believe this, or how are you feeling after that? I mean, most people, that's like a life maker or something.
Yeah.
And you do it in a day while like being at the gym, being at your friend's house, coming back home. I think a lot of people would think that if someone's making 7 figures in a day, that they probably have like 80 monitors and like 3 headsets on and all of this stuff. I don't know. Tell me more.
It felt like a goal like was accomplished, of like hitting that mark on one day. But I was just tired, man. Like,
yeah,
I just went to sleep. Like
that makes sense.
Yeah, I went to sleep and I woke up the next day, and I think I didn't trade the next day, because kind of like how when we have big losses, we need to clear that air and take like a short period of time to come back to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That same thing happened, so I took a break. But honestly, like I don't think I gave my my now wife, then girlfriend, like too much information, because it would stress her out. So yeah, I don't know if I told her about that like when it happened, but we probably went out to dinner or something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Trent? Do you have any notable wins where you were just like, this is kind of surreal? Anything stick in your mind? I know you said your biggest wins and losses. It's not as much that.
Not really. So I was gunning for that decade maker, but I never got it. So I would say my biggest wins are comparable to my biggest losses. Multiple year losers or multiple year winners. And I don't really remember them, to be honest. Because they were just kind of like part of growing the equity curve at that moment. But yesterday in the full-time trader huddle, Datsby brought up to me, and shout out to Datsby, another member of the Chart Guys. He said that he remembered that I bought a Mana oversold bounce and then went to Disneyland and came back with 100% gains or something like that.
Legendary, man.
And that was, I guess that was my plan, because and the thing is, I don't even remember this. So but again, what I'm going to remember are those moments when I made a change, a change in my game. And I think one of these moments, happened the other day on the Bitcoin hourly oversold backburner when I picked up some altcoins, and I'm still holding half of my positions, and I've never been able to do that before, even though I've seen it so many times. And I kept telling myself, I've got to hold on for a longer term bounce. And every time that it came and the setup was clear to me, I didn't execute. And so this time, the win, if it works out perfectly, it's not going to probably not even be comparable to that mana trade, to be honest, because I'm trading with smaller positions at the moment, but it's going to be remarkable because like I made it kind of a breakthrough. And so those are the moments, those are the trades that I actually remember, not the biggest trades in terms of monetary value.
You're making me look bad, man. that I love that, man. It's so impressive. And I remember when Bitcoin was hitting hourly oversold. And you're like, I have this conviction to hold, like, because we've got a $10,000 range, and this is our first hourly oversold, like from hitting all-time high, just barely, and that's impressive. So, dude, I'm super proud of you.
It was hard. It was hard because at one point, I mean, WLD at one point it pulled back after initial bounce of like 15%. At one point, it pulled back where I was almost break even, and I decided, I'm just gonna get off the computer and just let it play out. And it was tough. It was tough. It's not something that I was able to do before, but this time I'm sticking to it. So I think I would have remembered this trade, even if it doesn't work out, if we break to new lows. Like it was a time when I actually followed through with this setup, right? So we can't really control what the market will do, but we can control what how we trade and whether or not we stick to our game plans.
That's inspiring stuff, man. It's interesting that you bring up the getting off the computer part, because that was what I was thinking of talking about next, because I know, Devon, you're an absolute master of having conviction in a play, getting positioned for it, and then kind of taking the human part of yourself out of the equation by getting off the computer and not watching. And it's been incredible to watch you just drill these trades while a bunch of us are like, oh, I'm out half at the 5-minute 12 EMA, and you're like, I don't know, the bounce just started. I'm looking for 4-hour 12 EMA. So I know you do that a lot, Devon, with true mastery. Is that something, trend, that you have done historically, or is this like a new thing that you're going to be implementing into your game? I know it's like so easy to want to watch every tick when we've got money on and whatnot, but how do you manage that, trend?
Yeah, it's a process. It's not easy. And like I said, I've seen this type of setup many times before, and I've never been able to let it play out. But so it's I'm seeing a 10K range, first hourly oversold on Bitcoin, and if we're gonna get this altcoin rotation, it's gonna be now. In that, in the process, we can form a 4-hour or 12-hour equilibrium, and that could play out for several days. And so I just kind of put on, I put on my iron hands, muster the strength to not sell.
Get on Wall Street bets to find some inspiration.
It was not easy, for sure. But it's something that I want to do moving forward. And, this is kind of like the first time that I've been able to do it after seeing how these setups have played out in the past. But now the challenge is for me to then do it again, right?
Yeah.
And again after that, because, one time does not make a trend, right? Like, you need to do it several times to make it a habit.
Well, that's why you're a trend.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Let's talk about that. I've never asked you. I've always kind of figured like it was a little implied, but your name in the Chart Guys chat room is Trend. Can you tell us, is that as obvious as it seems? Is it?
Yeah, I think around year 3 was when I made that change. So I used to be called something else, and one day I was just like, I gotta keep playing the trend. This is messed up, And so I decided to just change my name to Trend in order to kind of embody that, kind of make myself accountable, and I think just become the trend, right? So
yeah, well, you did it.
That's kind of
For sure.
about.
Dude, I love you went from I think 007, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
Trent. Like both great names, and I love it. Like you've embodied that name so well. Quick note on like the conviction and like diamond hands and holding. There's an industry secret that Joey and I have developed, and we haven't executed the game plan yet, but we're thinking that if you buy with conviction to be able to hold it, you need to hire a UFC fighter to be like on contract and be able to knock you out, and then you're chilling. Like wake up a couple months later and say.
We're still working through the details of how we're going to implement it, but hopefully Q4 2024 will be knocked out.
We're hoping, yeah.
Oh, let's see what else we got. Well, so it's very clear that both of you guys are passionate about the game, passionate about the process, and I want to ask where do you go from here? But I kind of am guessing your answer is just going to be more of the same, just trying to get better and win the game. Is that what you guys would say? You have any big plans ahead of pivots? I know, Trend, you're getting into the commodities and index futures. What else you got on the docket?
Yeah, for me, I would like to trade crypto alts, maybe 5% of my trading hours. So that's kind of my goal. And in the past couple of weeks, I've come back to crypto just for the potential that we get this rotation. It's not confirmed yet. A lot of things have to shape up for that to happen. But that's why I'm excited about crypto at the moment. But my main focus is to kind of spread out and then, get a piece of the hype cycles in other markets. And right now, I've been really just for the past year training myself, practicing with very small accounts, trading ES and NQ in commodities, futures. And it's been a bumpy road. I have not made my breakthrough in those parts of my game. So I'm trading smaller accounts these days and waiting for the right moments to then pull the trigger, right? And if we get that, then that's one of those times. But my accounts, I'm risking very small part of my capital at the moment. But yeah, just learning other spaces. That's my goal.
Just rounding out your game, becoming more diverse.
Yeah.
How about you, Devin?
Yeah, similar thing. Like Joey and I have been trading more like NQ recently, and same thing as Trend. Like I've been playing it for a while now, but haven't like gotten my breakthrough and consistency with that. But I've been trying a lot of different stuff, like been having success trading semiconductor stocks like Nvidia and SMCI. Like now with the Bitcoin ETFs, we've got multiple ETFs that have great liquidity. Like IBIT is probably the most liquid now. And to be able to make these trades without any fees and get exposure to crypto with liquidity and have like, you finally can have like a really close stop loss and not have to worry about that slippage and fees, which is why like I honestly couldn't really do stops like in my bigger account days on the crypto exchanges. Like there was not the liquidity, and then the fees would be into the like 4 or 5 figures at some points. Like so I would be scaling a lot more. So yeah, there's a lot more opportunity in like setups with taking trades in crypto with ETFs. Now we're looking into potentially the MJ sector if we get some news that comes out with descheduling. And there's so many things that like we now have our capital like diversified and opened up into different sectors. So I'm excited. Like we could hit any hype cycle at this point, you know.
Right on. Yeah, bring them on. Bring them on.
Yeah.
The MJ one will be fun, especially after how just long it's been getting smoked. It should be a good one. But
yeah, even if it's a bear flag bounce on MJ, it's going to be a couple %, right?
yeah, you love to hope so.
If it ever happens. Yeah.
We got a couple questions in the chat, and then we'll wrap it up here. We're coming into the 6 p.m. end time of this. How do you guys approach journaling? Do you journal? Do you just do mental reviews? How do you go about it? Either or can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super lazy in terms of journaling. So I actually don't journal, and I've had the discussion in the full-time trader huddle. I think my journaling is really posting charts and posting my thoughts in the chat room, and then getting together in these huddles and kind of speaking out loud, making myself accountable, and posting my setups. That's kind of the way I journal. Is interacting with other people instead of kind of reviewing my day and writing it down, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and what a place to be able to do that. The Chart Guys is obviously all three of us are biased that it's a sweet spot, but you got all the channels. So like if you're doing crypto, you can be in there with Chris Shermer talking crypto charts, and then you can be in full-time traders with Tim, or the futures channel with Lamont, or the commodities channel with me, and just to have all these different spots where you can go and post your charts, go back, reflect on it. It definitely is sweet in that regard. How about and even with that, when you get people asking questions and stuff, and then you get that conversation going with it, then it forces you to be more critical about what you posted and think about it a little bit more, because you kind of get people coming and poking holes, and not maliciously by any means, just asking questions, trying to figure it out. And I think the more critically we can think about all this stuff, then the more thorough our view is on it. So that's I've never really thought about that as like a journaling process, but I definitely feel you in like the accountability of once you put something out in the chat, you're connected to it, and you want to make sure that it's quality and whatnot. So that's interesting. How about you, Devin?
I resonate a lot with what Trent said, in that I don't consistently journal like on pen and paper, but I do really value like hashing out trades with friends like you or Trend, that gives accountability. I think that, yeah, maybe I am lazy about not journaling, but I know what I need to work on, and I feel that over analyzing my day-to-day trades has personally hindered me in the past, just by analysis paralysis, right? Like when I see a new opportunity, I don't want to have to be thinking about my trade yesterday, because today is a new day. So I know that journaling is very, very helpful for like the vast majority of people. So I would never discourage it.
Right on. Right on. Well, I think we'll just wrap it up there. Really, really appreciate you guys taking time to chat here. We've got a bunch of people watching right now. Everybody's enjoying it, and we're all learning from you. You guys are the superstars that are where we all want to be. So just really appreciate y'all sharing your experiences and your time, and continually helping out people in the Chart Guys. Like, it's such a blessing that like I learned how to trade crypto alts pretty much from Trent, and he learned it from Dan, and it's just like this passing of the torch. And I'll be forever grateful to see how masterfully Trend utilized the BTC ratios to position in alts and stuff. And, just blessed to be friends with both of you guys. And thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Right on. Well, thanks everybody for tuning out in. We will see you at the next one. Everybody give your thanks to Devon and Trend, and have a good night.
See y'all.
Farewell.